Hi everyone, welcome to Mysterious 5. In this video, we're going to take a look at 5 unsolved cases in which the victim's final moments have been recorded by surveillance footage. The unsolved disappearance of Khiara Henry. July 2019 was an exciting time for 23-year-old Khiara Henry. The young woman was known to be very outgoing, spontaneous, and adventurous, so it was no surprise that she had booked an impromptu trip to Hawaii just by herself. The group of islands has many outdoor adventures that make it an excellent fit for solo travelers. But when Khiara traveled from her hometown of San Diego, California, to Maui that summer, nobody would have guessed that it would be the last time anybody saw her. On the 18th of July, Khiara checked into the Ashton Maui Hill Hotel, where she had made a reservation until the 21st. For the first few days of her stay there, Khiara enjoyed her time at the island, taking different tours around the area, one of them being a tour of Waianapanapa Park on the 19th of July. She also toured Wailili Farms on the 20th of July as a part of a trip organized by Hike Maui. On the 22nd of July, Khiara shifted from the Ashton Maui Hill Hotel to another hotel in Kihei. She was planning to stay there until July 29th. She had booked the flight back home on that same day. However, she would never board that flight. At around 2 p.m. on the 21st of July, Khiara rented a black Nissan from an establishment called Hertz Rent-A-Car. She rented the car at the Kahului airport for one night. What happened next is a mystery to everyone. On the 23rd of July, the rental car was found at a gravel parking lot in Waianapanapa State Park by authorities. All of Khiara's personal belongings were found in the car, including most of her luggage, her credit card, and her identification. What authorities were unable to find in the car, however, were the car's keys, a small backpack that Khiara was known to carry, and her cell phone. When the mileage on the black Nissan was inspected, authorities were able to conclude that Khiara drove from the airport where she had picked up the vehicle directly to the park. They believe she most likely went hiking. The detail that terrified everyone was the fact that Khiara had neither answered nor returned a single phone call that she had received. All calls made to Khiara's cell phone were going straight to voicemail. It was when an employee of Hertz Rent-A-Car called Khiara's sister to let her know that Khiara was missing that she knew something was seriously amiss. The fact that they had found the car abandoned, but Khiara was nowhere to be found, was extremely distressing. On the 26th of July, Khiara's sister reported the young woman missing. Her whole family held on to hope that somehow Khiara would still find her way to her flight home on the 29th of July. Unfortunately, that hope was short-lived, as Khiara did not show up for the flight. The last confirmed sighting of Khiara was on surveillance footage at the rental agency on the day of her disappearance. In the video, she can be seen speaking with a representative, booking her rental, and then leaving to the garage, never to be seen again. It was confirmed that the outfit Khiara was wearing in the video was found inside the rental car. At first, the Maui Police Department assisted Khiara's family in their desperate search and led the investigation. However, as time has passed without any trace of her, and any new leads, the case went cold. Some have suggested that Khiara left of her own will, but her family doesn't believe those claims as she was extremely close to her loved ones. Furthermore, it seems very unlikely that she would have booked her flight back home if she just wanted to disappear. In addition to this, there's been no activity on her phone or her credit card after her disappearance, which is extremely unlikely if she left of her own free will. With the second anniversary of Khiara's disappearance fast approaching, her family still feels the pain of her absence and waits for answers. They continue to return to the island to search for her, and have since stated they will never give up until they find the answers they are looking for. Death of Elisa Sherman. In 2013, 53-year-old nurse Elisa Sherman from Beechwood, Ohio, was ready to start a new chapter in her life. She was getting a divorce, and even though divorces are not usually positive at all, she was hopeful for the future. On the 13th of March, she sent a message to her brother saying, "Trial in 2 weeks. Hopefully there's life after death." Just 1.5 weeks later, she was dead. Having had children together, Elisa and her soon-to-be ex-husband Sanford had been married for almost 30 years. But by 2011, their relationship started to fall apart. Sanford admitted that he had been having an affair, and it wasn't even a brief one. The affair had been going on from 2006 to 2010. To Elisa, this might not have been a big surprise. She had even confessed to Robbie that she had been battling and struggling with a very controlling, hurtful spouse for many years. But this time, she had gone through enough. On the 20th of June 2011, Elisa finally filed for divorce. Her husband, however, was not the only one causing problems. Elisa's divorce lawyer, Gregory Moore, was a great example of a problematic person. Moore was notorious for asking the court to delay Elisa and Sanford's divorce hearing. It is believed that Moore even went as far as to report a bomb threat on the days when the hearings were scheduled to occur to delay the proceedings. On the 24th of March, 2013, Elisa was supposed to meet with her divorce lawyer at the Galleria at Erie View in downtown Cleveland. Moore had sent a message to his client asking her to meet him at his office so they could prepare for the trial together. Elisa just had to wait a couple more days and she would be free from her unhappy marriage. But when Elisa was just a few steps from her attorney's office, something happened. She was suddenly brutally attacked from behind with a knife in broad daylight. Elisa's new life ended before it could have even started. It was clear that the killer had targeted her and wanted to ensure she didn't survive. Of course, the prime suspect in this case would have been her husband, Sanford. This theory was proved further plausible when an email that Elisa had sent to herself in 2012 resurfaced. In this email, Elisa documented her worries that her husband might try to have her attacked or killed. However, authorities did not find anything that would link Sanford to Elisa's death. There were a lot of suspicious things happening with Gregory Moore. He had texted Elisa that day before and after her death. In the messages, he indicated that he was in his office, but phone records analysis, electronic keycard records, and witness statements showed he was not in the building. He even lied in his interview with investigators. If he had nothing to do with Elisa's death, why did he lie? And more importantly, where was he when Elisa was killed? Unfortunately, there are still no answers for that. But Gregory later pleaded guilty to giving investigators false information on the day of Elisa's death. Still, he has never explained himself or shared what happened that day. In the end, Gregory was sent to prison for 6 months for giving inaccurate information, which didn't provide any kind of closure to Elisa's family. One of the craziest things about Elisa's death is that the person responsible for what happened to her was most likely caught on surveillance tape. CCTV footage from the crime scene shows the perpetrator wearing a hooded winter coat, fleeing the scene of the crime. So far, the footage has not been helping authorities to find potential suspects in the case. It has been 8 years since Elisa was killed, and her family is still waiting for answers. They meet each year on the anniversary of her death, and still pray that someone with information about Elisa's death comes forward. Number 2. Who killed John Jack Wheeler? On the 29th of December 2010, 66-year-old Jack Wheeler was found walking around with only one shoe. He was clad in a shabby-looking black suit. An eyewitness had assumed he was homeless. Little did she know that Jack was actually a well-connected man with strong ties to the U.S. government and had a high security clearance. He had worked as a consultant for the MITRE Corporation, dealing specifically with cybersecurity. Jack and his wife, Catherine Kleiss, had a beautiful home in Wilmington. So, why would this man be walking around looking like he had been living in the same clothes for ages? Jack's behavior on the days preceding his death was extremely strange and almost unhinged. He attempted to enter a parking garage in Wilmington with that one shoe and no winter coat. Even though his car had been parked in a different parking lot, he tried to pay a parking fee here. He also told the worker at the garage that somebody stole his briefcase. A while later, he entered a pharmacy in Newcastle and asked for the pharmacist to drop him at Wilmington. He was visibly upset. When the pharmacist kindly offered to call him a taxi, Jack left. On the 30th of December, which was the next day, several people who saw Jack loitering around office buildings in the Mitre and DuPont areas offered to help him, but he did not accept assistance from anyone, even if that would have saved his life. On New Year's Eve in 2010, Jack Wheeler was found dead in a Delaware landfill. He appeared to be severely beaten, having punctured lungs, broken ribs, and a wound on his head. His cause of death was determined to be assault and blunt force trauma. It was also later revealed that he had suffered a heart attack. The strangest thing, however, was that while Jack's body was found in Wilmington, it was found among the contents of a commercial dumpster that came from Newark, Delaware, almost 15 miles away. Police were unable to deduce how Jack ended up there, especially because he was moving on foot. Jack's odd behavior before his tragic and mysterious death was caught on CCTV. For many of us, Jack indeed looked upset and confused in the parking garage surveillance video. However, his wife Catherine said she thinks he was just afraid. She didn't think he was acting abnormally. Catherine even said it wouldn't be out of character for Jack to carry his shoe if his foot hurt, hence walking with just one shoe on. Normal or not, the CCTV footage did not provide investigators with any clues on who could have been Jack's killer. No suspects have ever been arrested in connection to his death. Of course, there have been many theories about what happened to Jack. Some saying maybe he had a stroke, wandered around, and was ultimately killed by the wrong sort of crowd. Jack was found with his expensive jewelry, including his Rolex watch, so it is unlikely that a robbery was the motive. Jack also had bipolar disorder and might have been having an episode around the time of his death. The footage of him suggested a degree of paranoia. Another widely circulated theory is that Jack had made several powerful enemies while involved in national defense and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and somebody wanted to get rid of him. This theory is supported by the fact his body ended up in the dumpster. Somebody did not want him to be found. Or did he perhaps climb into the dumpster himself and get crushed in the process? However, none of these theories have ever been proven as fact. Due to a blatant lack of evidence and speculation, this case must remain pure speculation. Number 1. The unsolved disappearance of Andrew Gosden. 14-year-old Andrew Gosden bought a one-way ticket to London from the Doncaster railway station in 2007. In a suspicious turn of events, Andrew has never been seen or heard from ever again. Andrew was described by his family as a clever boy who loved going to school. In fact, he would often participate in the summer school program for gifted kids, where the curriculum would be far more challenging than usual. While he did have his own group of friends, he was not known to frequently meet them outside of school. His father later stated that Andrew was incredibly enthusiastic about going to school and furthering his education, because he saw it as an important step toward creating a good life for himself in the future. While Andrew liked to be by himself, there was no evidence to suggest that he might have been dealing with either bullying or depression. He was incredibly close with his family, and just the day before he disappeared, he was up late solving puzzles and doing crafts with his father. In addition to this, Andrew's older sister was one of his closest friends. They would often listen to music together, as they liked the same bands. On the 14th of February 2007, Andrew was described by his family as acting odd. It appeared as though he had woken up on the wrong side of the bed, and he was unusually ill-tempered. He reportedly left the house at around 8:05 a.m., and his parents assumed he was going to school. However, he took a detour, and instead of waiting for his bus at the bus stop, he went to Westfield Park, which was also close by. It is suspected that he was at the park waiting for his family to leave for the day in order to return home and change out of his school clothes. This theory is supported by CCTV footage from a neighbor's house, which shows Andrew returning home. He then changed into a pair of black jeans with a black Slipknot t-shirt and training shoes. He is also suspected to have been carrying a small bag with his wallet, keys, and a portable PlayStation console. He was also likely wearing a black watch. All of his remaining possessions were found exactly where they were supposed to be, and he had not taken a jacket with him. He had also left his passport and the charger for his PlayStation behind. The £100 that he had saved up thus far had also been found in his room, so his father does not believe he intended to stay out for very long. At around 8:30 a.m., he was seen on the neighbor's CCTV once more, and this time he was heading toward Westfield Park. This would have been the route he would have had to take in order to reach the Doncaster railway station. Here, a woman working at the ticket counter came forward to report that she sold Andrew a one-way ticket to London. She remembers the interaction because she had asked him if he wanted a return ticket as well, since it would only cost him 50 pence more. But Andrew refused the offer. He was captured boarding the train to King's Cross Station at around 9:35 a.m. A woman who was reportedly sitting next to him later came forward and stated that he was traveling alone and spent most of the journey playing games on his PlayStation. At 11:20 a.m., he was seen on CCTV footage at King's Cross Station, where he exited the station and was never seen again. Investigators were contacted at around 7 p.m. when his family had grown increasingly worried. It was initially believed that Andrew either went to London to meet an online friend, or that he had gone to see one of his favorite bands perform live. However, neither of these theories has ever been substantiated. There have been no viable leads about Andrew's whereabouts since then, and his family is still searching for answers. As always, thanks for watching.